Hello everyone and welcome. This is Professor Boucher and we're going to be going over relevant costs for management decisions. Now, the managers of an organization are going to use accounting information to make all sorts of decisions. They're going to do things like, should I buy a product or should I make a product? Should I keep a tool or should I replace a tool? Or for the instance that we have, should we continue to operate a segment of our organization or should we discontinue it? So, let's get in and see how we would answer this problem. Now, as we're doing here, we are going to have an input section and an output section. We're developing this more to be a tool for the managers of the organization rather than a report. This way, if they're in a meeting or if they happen to be in a situation where some of these numbers change based on information that's coming into them, they can quickly adjust the sheet and see how everything can be adjusted and how that would reflect their overall decision. So our data input section should include the following items. We should have two types of products, for example, two types of cups. I'm going to stick with the 2 cups. Expected number of units sold, sale price per unit, variable cost per unit, variable selling and administrative cost per unit, our total fixed cost per product type, and avoidable fixed costs for product type. Now this is telling us that we need to go ahead and create a data output that automatically calculates the differential analysis based on the data that we enter. Now it also gives us a note on the bottom. Please keep in mind that we should be worrying about our formatting, color choices, and making sure that these results are easy to understand. It may not be something that you hear enough about, but when you get into practice for an organization, you need to make sure that whatever tool that you are building or whatever report you are providing is easy to understand and maybe even easier to use. So let's go ahead and start this off. I am going to jump right in and I am going to build an input section. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is my input. I'm just going to be building out the very basic bones of this to start. And this says we've got 2 product types, so I'm going to call this over here. This is going to be product type 1. Actually, I said I'm going to do cups. So you know what? We'll do a metal cup and a plastic cup. There we go. So now I have 2 different types of products. And then we need these additional items. So expected number of units sold. We're going to need to include sales price per unit. We're going to need to include our variable cost per unit. And also our variable, let's see, our variable, I'm just going to call it selling and admin right now because that's going to get long. And then our total fixed costs. Per unit type. And then avoidable fixed costs per unit type. All right, so here we go. We've got metal and plastic. These are going to be our inputs. My output, this tells me we're going to have to go ahead and create a segment elimination. We can use our textbook for this. So I'm going to go ahead and label this as well, my output. And we're going to be evaluating the metal cup and the plastic cup. All right, if you went ahead and took a look at a book or some other examples, what we would see is that the first thing we would do in a segment elimination is, actually, I'm going to take these right off. In a segment elimination is we would first see what our income would be before segment elimination. All right, and it's still going to be for our metal cup and our plastic cup. All right, and these are the same things. Actually, are we going to use all of these? I'm not sure. So we're going to need our expected number of, nope, I don't want any of those. All right, I think what I'm going to want to set this up as sales. Then I'm going to have to come up with my variable cost. then that will tell us what our contribution margin is. And then we're going to worry about our fixed costs. And then that will lead us to our income. All right, I'm going to stop at this point and just take a look over my stuff to make sure it kind of looks okay so far. So right now, everything's looking good. Oh, actually here in variable sold and admin, that's not what we want. We should have a lowercase here, and it's selling. And also I'm going to get rid of that capital A because we're not using capitals in this, and put admin here. Avoidable fixed costs, income before segment elimination, sales, variable cost, contribution margin, fixed cost. Oh, that one didn't start with a capital letter, so we'll go ahead and get that fixed and then move on. All right, now I'm going to start. Let's see, what are we also going to probably want totals on this? There we go. Now what I'm also going to want is I'm probably going to want to start building these formulas now. Now I often get asked this, there's no numbers. How am I supposed to build this? Well, Excel doesn't care about numbers. It's taking the cells themselves and it's going to be doing processes with those cells. So in our case, our sales for the metal cup is going to be the expected number of units sold multiplied by our sales price per unit, which in our case would be 0 because there's nothing up there. Our variable costs would be the expected number of units sold multiplied by our variable cost per unit. Now, those of you who are in my managerial accounting class, you may be asking, why are we only using one of the variable? Well, these are broken into two right now. Variable cost per unit, and then the variable selling and admin costs per unit. Specifically, what we are working on right now is the manufacturing side. So we don't worry about the selling and admin costs. In this course that you're in right now, the last assignment will be building a comprehensive Excel based on what you first build here. Now, the building of that comprehensive Excel will include an income statement based off of an input section. To build your income statement, you're going to have selling and administrative expenses. We don't need them for this problem, but it works best to build it this way so that when you do get to that point, you're already going to have it in here. All right, so contribution margin, as a reminder, is going to be your sales minus your variable costs. In our case, still 0. Our fixed costs are going to be our total fixed costs. And then our income before segment elimination for us is going to be our contribution margin minus our fixed costs. Okay, because Excel, I can just go ahead and move these over like this. And it's going to copy those formulas and use the next cells as references. So when I do this, what you would see is that this is going to be pulling everything from column C, because that's how I built this. When I drag this little bar with these crosshairs over to the right, it takes those cells that I referenced in here and moves them so that they're pulling from directly above it. Now the totals, I don't want to do that again because what I want to do for my totals is I want to add these across. I'm going to want to take the total sales from metal cups plus my total sales from plastic cups. But what I can do in this one now is I can actually grab that little handle again and carry it down. All right, that's going to give me my first output section. That's not going to be enough information yet for me to be able to determine if I am going to continue or discontinue this segment. So we're going to move down, give myself a little bit of space, and we're going to put our segment elimination analysis. All right, so segment elimination analysis. There's two options that we would do. We could continue a segment, or we could eliminate the segment. And then this last one would be our income increase or decrease. I already know I don't want those two capitals there, so I'm going to take off one of them. So what are we going to be evaluating in a segment elimination analysis? Well, the first thing that we're going to be worrying about is the sales. We're also going to be worrying about the variable costs. Then we're going to be worrying about our contribution margin again. Lastly, we are going to be worrying about our fixed costs. Okay, I have another little error here. This is a great example. I am not going back and editing any of this. You guys are seeing this live is how we would go ahead and put this together. Fixed costs, and then lastly, this would be our income or loss. So let's see. I'm going to make up a story for myself real quick. I'm going to say that we're looking at discontinuing plastic cups because they're no good for the environment. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and see how this would work. Since that's what I'm looking at discontinuing, my plastic cups. My sales, if I continued them, would still be the sales associated with my plastic cups here. The variable costs would be the variable costs associated with the plastic cup. Contribution margin, we're going to just have it calculated again down here with sales minus variable cost. Now the fixed costs are going to be the same fixed costs from plastic up here. And our income is going to be our contribution margin minus our fixed costs. Now, the elimination. This is one where I can hard code something. So remember, hard code is where you are going to actually type in a number. You're not going to use a reference. Because if I'm eliminating this segment, I will have exactly 0 sales associated with it. And I will have 0 variable costs, because variable costs increase in proportion to the increase in production. Now, our contribution margin, just because I do like to have formulas, I will take sales minus variable cost. It will still be 0. My fixed costs are where we need to pay attention to, though. So when we get to fixed costs, not all fixed costs are avoidable if we were to go ahead and discontinue our operations. For instance, in this one, we are making a metal cup and we are making a plastic cup, and we are using the exact same factory. But what's happening is we have 2 separate production lines. So I can't get rid of the costs of operating my factory. I can't get rid of my rent. I can't get rid of my real estate. I can't get rid of my insurance. I can get rid of the equipment itself, right? So I will no longer have any depreciation associated with the equipment. So there would be that depreciation with the equipment is the avoidable cost. The unavoidable is the fact it's still inside the same factory. So for us, our fixed costs for elimination would actually be the avoidable fixed costs of plastic. And then we would take our contribution margin minus our fixed costs to give us our income or loss on elimination. Now, this one might seem a little counterintuitive, but to come up with our income increase or decrease, we are going to take whatever the result of the elimination was and subtract from it, continue. All right, let's go ahead and put in some numbers and see how this works. All right, metal cups, I think I'm going to produce 500 of them. Plastic cups, let's say we're going to produce 5,000 of them. Sales price per unit, metal cups, I'm going to call it $25. Plastic cups, I'm going to call it $5. Variable cost per unit, well, if we're doing metal cups, I'm guessing we're probably a lot higher, so $15. Whereas a plastic cup, let's say that it's $1. Our variable selling and admin, I'm going to say $3 for metal and $2 for plastic. Our total fixed cost for metal, we probably need more equipment, so we're going to say $25,000. And then for plastic, we're going to say $18,000. If you're asking me where I'm coming up with these numbers, I'm just making them up. Our avoidable costs for per unit type, let's see, I would still have all of the factory, all that stuff associated with it. So if I was to do away with metal, I'm guessing I would still have something like $20,000 in fixed costs. Equivalent, we'll kind of use something similar here for avoidable fixed costs in our plastic. So let's say that we would still have our avoidable would be 13,000. Here we go. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the rest of this. What do we have going on here? All right. So if we eliminate it, we would lose $13,000. If we continue it, we continue to make $2,000. Our income increase or decrease here is going to be minus $15,000 from discontinuing it. So we do not want to discontinue this. When we see that negative number, it tells us, hey, you should continue these operations. While the operation itself, right, manufacturing of this plastic cup may not be profitable, it does add to the overall profitability of the organization, so we'd want to keep it. All right, so we've got the bones of this all in place. The mechanics all work, but it looks basic. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that does not really look good or usable on this. So I'm going to go ahead and start making a few changes, starting at the very top. And these are the same things that you should consider when you're looking at it. So expected number of units sold. All right, I'm going to change this to something like, let's go ahead and have commas in these. I can't sell a portion of a cup, so I'm going to have these present as whole numbers. Sales price per unit, these should be in dollars and cents. That way we can change them if we like. The variable cost per unit, these here should as well be in dollars with cents. The variable selling and admin, these should also be dollars. The total fixed costs, these down here should also be dollars. So now the presentation of those makes more sense. All right, that's also going to change what we have going down here. Everything in this section should be dollars. Now, with larger numbers like this, I'm not as worried about the pennies. So I'm just going to get rid of those. And the same thing down here. These should also be in dollars. There we go, in whole dollars. And you saw by turning this into an accounting dollar, by clicking number at the top and then clicking this dollar sign, it automatically will now show it as a parentheses or a decrease in dollars rather than a negative. Okay, so now at least my numbers look clean, but I could still do a lot more for this, right? So like maybe these right here would look better if they were actually centered. That would make more sense for all of these if these were centered. Same thing here. See if I can go ahead and center this. All right, now when I do that, this column's not quite wide enough, so maybe I should make this column wider. All right, so this whole thing is my output section. I guess maybe what I should do, maybe put like a border around this whole thing, like a thick border around the outside. Okay, that's starting to look a little bit better. This is my output. Maybe I'm going to make that bold. Maybe I need to make it bigger too, so that you can see it. That's the output. And then we've got two separate components in here. We've got our income before, so I guess maybe we'll just make that one bold and keep it the same size. I guess we'll make this one bold and keep it the same size. All right, maybe we'll take these and maybe just, I don't know. Maybe indent them a little bit. There we go, set them off. Okay, take these, we'll indent them a little bit. We can see that they maybe should look like this. Now it's not wide enough. I guess we should make this column wider. All right, my input section up here, I should probably do the same thing, keep something similar, use a thicker border. What size text did I use here? 16, this should probably go up to 16 as well. Should be bold to keep it in. All right, now we see our input and our output. I guess I don't really need to indent those. There's no like headings and things like that. All right, now you're starting to see what we're doing here, how things are going. Maybe we would want to start changing things. Maybe this input up here, maybe that should be highlighted as yellow to let them know their output. Maybe these over here, my outputs, maybe I'm gonna make this red because I don't want them to actually touch this. Now I got two separate things down here, so maybe I should change the colors of these. Maybe I should make this section like a really pale blue, and then make this section down here maybe a little bit darker blue. All right, now I've kind of got too many spaces in here, so maybe if I get rid of one of those. Okay, now we're starting to look like something. All right, and that's where I'm going to start. You know what? I'm just going to start maybe making that bold over there and that bold over there. All All right. I don't know if I'm going to make those bold. I guess I should make these bold as well. I guess I'm making my titles bold. I should make all of my titles bold just so it kind of makes sense across all of them. All right, and now it's actually starting to look like something. So you could go from beyond this and continue to add things. Maybe you're going to go ahead and actually change the color. Maybe you're going to change a shading inside of these so that you can see that they both line up. At that point, it becomes what is going to make this visually appropriate for the user, that they can tell there's different things going on. It can increase the speed that they can use it. All right, well, that's going to conclude my lecture for today. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.